Hey, have you heard about my AI alter ego? That's right. Ask Alan Anything is now live, and we've trained it on my 13 books. We've trained it on over 200 podcasts. It has most of what's in here, not everything, but most of what's in here. And you can, when you're sitting around going, gee, I wonder what Alan would do in this situation, or I wonder what Alan would say in this situation. Well, now you can. Go to whatwouldallansay.com. Enter the coupon code podcast because you're going to get half off. It starts at only $10 a month. And now when you're thinking, I wonder what Alan say, now you can actually ask. Go to whatwouldallansay.com, enter the coupon code podcast, and start asking me anything. Are you practicing positivity? Want to find out what I'm talking about? Listen to this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Berg. I'm a speaker, author, sales trainer, website reviewer, and I help businesses like yours sell more, profit more, and have more fun doing it. Enjoy this episode. Hey, it's Alan Berg. Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I am so excited to have my friend Tim Richardson on to talk about positivity. Tim, welcome.
Thank you, Alan. I really appreciate the invite to be here today.
Well, you and I have known each other for a long time, and we share music and other things in common. But what sparked me to bring you on was one of your newsletter articles called "What If." But let's just break the wall here. What is positivity?
So positivity is a combination of two words, pause and positivity. And so back pandemic time frame when many of us were not doing much or doing nothing live, I came up with this idea of delivering a presentation on pausing because I was asking my clients and staying in contact with people via phone and Zoom and asking them what they were struggling with. And people were telling me they were working more than they'd ever worked before. They were at home, they would work until dinner and then have dinner with their family and then work another 4, 5, or 6 hours and then repeat the next day. And, as a recovering type A personality, I know that being driven to success of any kind without the appropriate kind of pauses is going to be very, very difficult for us mentally, physically, spiritually, in every way possible. So I designed this speech. I started delivering it at a local Toastmasters group to get my reps in, and then people started hiring me to do it.
That's great. I think about one of my books that came from somebody asked me to do a keynote, and it's a little bit out of my normal lane. It was a keynote, not a workshop, and that turned into a book and all these things because you never know. So yeah, taking time for yourself, taking time to pause, in your case, taking the time to play some jazz, maybe over at a distillery. That's a side note over here. Okay. So let's circle around to what if. You wrote this newsletter, and I love reading your newsletters every week, but this one just kind of hit a nerve there. So what was the whole gist of that what if newsletter?
So one of my tenets and why pausing is important is leaders and their teams need to pause more for innovation and new thinking. And, new ideas don't come if every moment is jam-packed with to-do items, with meetings, with Zoom calls, and so forth. So I was at an event in Atlanta earlier this year, and as I pause by walking a lot, and that's where I do a lot of my thinking. And so I'm walking outside the hotel in downtown area of Atlanta, in Buckhead, actually. And I saw this automatic little guy on the sidewalk delivering food to somebody. And then a moment later, I saw a wireless or a driverless car come by, and I only walked maybe a mile. And then on the way back, something else sparked my memory. I think I saw another driverless car, and I just started thinking about who created that. Who stopped long enough in their day to come up with these ideas? Because there's no way either of those ideas would have been developed if somebody was back to back to back to back with meetings and events and calls and to-dos and emails and so forth. And so it struck me is why leaders need to stop, why business owners need to stop and pause and have time where they're just looking out the window or taking a walk without an agenda or going down to the lake or intently looking at a flower, whatever, just to have that moment of inspiration. It's not going to come in a busy person's day. So we've got to stop to say, what if? So that's where it came from.
Oh, that's great. I mean, the best ideas come in the shower. I have a pad next to my bed I got many, many years ago. They stopped making it, unfortunately, called Night Notes, where it's got a Fisher space pen that writes at any angle. You pull the pen out, it lights up. You write your notes, and I have these little pieces of paper all over the house. Drives my wife crazy because it's all my little notes because I want to remember in the moment. Oh, I have to do this over here. But that was you made a great point. Every day we're using stuff right now. Think about what we have here right now. Okay. You and I are in different states on a video call. We gave no thought to how this happened, right? And somebody had to make this happen. Somebody had to think about this. I was talking to somebody about AI the other day, and they were concerned about they were asking about how something worked, like this AI agent called VenueX AI that responds to the inquiries that people make, has the conversation, and books the tour for the venue. And they're like, well, but how does it work? It's like, do you know how your cell phone works? When you push the button in your car, do you know how that works? Like every time you start your car, you give no thought to the fact that what happens with this button and all that stuff's happening under the hood, and we give no thought to it unless it doesn't work. And then all of a sudden, then we open the hood and we still don't know what we're doing, but we have to open the hood anyway to see what's going on there. But all those things are exactly what you said. Somebody said, well, why do we need a key? What if you keep the key in your pocket and push the button, right? Somebody thought of that. You're not going to lose your key, right? Not going to leave it in the car. So what are some ideas that maybe I think you mentioned in the article that somebody had that somebody else could have had but passed on?
Oh my goodness. Well, I don't know about you, but over the years, I have invented a number of things. I was speaking for a large telephone company in Colorado Springs in the mid 90s. And I found myself, I was there for a couple of days, continuously fidgeting with my hotel card key. And an idea clicked to me. I thought, what if this company and others like it could advertise on a hotel card key, and
Right.
so the card keys would be paid for by the advertiser. The advertiser would have this multi-use thing, and so I never did anything with it. And then
Hmm.
6, 9, 12 months later, I'm checking into a hotel in Fort Worth, Texas. I get my key, and there it is, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I think what happens to me and a lot of people as well is we think of an idea, and because we say, well, nobody nobody's ever done that before,
Hmm.
and it stops.
Right.
And Alan, that's happened to me probably a half dozen times where I thought of something, thought it would be a great business idea, didn't do anything. And it's like somebody jumped inside my brain, took my idea, and went off. And not all of them are hugely successful, but that certainly that hotel card key has been a thing that I've seen over and over and over again. And so have you. And
Yeah.
so I think we've got to stop when that voice comes on and say, well, nobody's ever done that before, and turn that around and say, that's exactly why I need to investigate this or think this through more fully, or get some people who are out of the box thinkers and say, hey, if I were to do this, what if I were to do this? What are
Yeah.
your thoughts? If I were to do this, what if I were to do, and so forth, and
Yeah.
dig a little bit deeper. But again, I think most of us have been conditioned when we come up with an idea that's never been done before to think to ourselves, this is kind of crazy. How can I make this work? And we've got to flip that and be able to have those questions that direct us to a deeper investigation.
Yeah. I speak about that in terms of saying, well, why not instead of why? Like instead of why should I? Well, why not? Right? If you're having this problem, right? If this would solve a problem for you, which by the way, I have something because those key cards that we sometimes forget to take back, right? Or have crate pictures on them or maybe ads, whatever. You can punch guitar picks out of key cards. Somebody put together hole punch and key card and turned it into you can make guitar picks out of key cards. And I have one in the drawer here because there is the idea.
So, what if a hotel in Nashville down near Music Row made that their branded hotel key card?
Mhm.
What if, the possibilities are endless with that kind of thinking. And
Yeah.
so it would stand out. It would serve as an advertising piece for that. Somebody said, well, look what I got. What a cool,
Right.
cool hotel. Now, the
Yeah.
product obviously has to be there as well. But with the wedding planner professionals, you've got to be looking in places other than the wedding industry to come up with
Right.
those ideas and say, well, what if I were to?
Hmm.
And I think that's a really, really crucial reason why we need positivity or why we need regular pauses in our lives to have
Yeah.
those ahas, to have those moments, to take an idea from another industry, to marry it with this other idea,
Yeah.
bring them together and make it applicable in your business.
I think some of the best ideas just are what's happening in your life, and you're like, oh, how can I apply this to what I do? How can this make my work better, or my clients better, my family better, whatever it is? Can I, this doesn't have to be just this thing. And I think that's what the big picture thinkers do is they don't look at something for what it is. They look for what could it be, right? What could I use this thing for? And I'm sure our houses and our offices are filled with things like that that were just, transferred in from something else. How can we use this over here? And then you have the famous stories of, how Blockbuster could have been doing online video and like, no, 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 right? Or newspapers, when USA Today came out, they could handle the fact that this was a newspaper with short articles and, color and whatever. But they never thought that nobody would want a newspaper. And then all of a sudden, who wants a newspaper? Everybody's getting their news online, right? So we want news, but the format, right, changed. Or Kodak, could have they had a digital camera. They had one. They built a digital camera, and they're like, no, because that would have killed their film business. Instead, somebody else killed their film business.
Well,
Yeah,
they're, as you're aware, there's story after story after,
yeah,
industries. Yesterday, my wife was talking to one of our daughters, and we were talking. She was talking about where do you get a pattern to sew something anymore? Because last year, the company that did all that, 800 plus stores, the company went bankrupt because and they had all these followers, they had all these people.
yep,
Could they not think about, well, what's next? What if we, went digital? What if we, and so forth.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's story after story of businesses who just refuse to see what could be, and so
yeah,
because of that, their
yeah.
their business is no longer.
I was in where was it? Georgetown or somewhere just recently, and I saw a Warby Parker eyeglass store. Now they built their business to be online purposely so you wouldn't have to go to a store. And now they ended up opening stores because they realized people are telling them, I want to try these things on. I want to walk in the store and try these things on. So here's a business that said we're gonna just gonna be an online business and got pulled into retail. Just the opposite of what you think there, right? It's just really funny, some of those things where you think it's going to be one thing and you really have to listen to your customers. You have to look for the need. I think about Apple. Steve Jobs was one of those rare people who could build something you didn't know you needed and then you can't live without. Most people see a need and then build something to fulfill that need. There aren't many visionaries like Steve Jobs. So I guess, you can go back to Henry Ford. If you asked people what they wanted, he didn't ask them because he said they would have wanted a faster horse. But there you go.
Well, and I think in both of those cases, there's something wedding professionals can learn from going back and understanding what happened there,
Yeah.
particularly if your listeners have not, or subscribers to this podcast have not heard Steve Jobs' speech introducing the iPhone. It's a very powerful, powerful speech, first of all, but
Yeah.
also just talking about it and the way he generated enthusiasm would be a great lesson for how
Yeah.
we communicate our messages to the audiences that we serve.
Yeah. Simplicity. And then his commencement at Stanford, what was that, 2004 or five, somewhere? If you just look up Steve Jobs' commencement at Stanford, and he talked about the connecting the dots, it's called the connecting the dots speech, and how you can't connect the dots going forward. You don't know how what you're doing right now is going to lead to something else. But when you look back, you're like, oh, actually, we were just talking about this. My wife and I grew up in Queens and New York City, but in different areas, only a few miles away. She was supposed to go to a different high school close to her. I was supposed to go to a high school further from me and ended up going to the one close to me. She ended up getting bused to that high school. And if it had not been that, we never would have met. right? Just because of these, the stars aligning, serendipity, fate, whatever you want to call it, just things happening. But that speech he talked about, when you look back, you can see, oh, I was here because of that. I saw this because of that. I did this because of that. But when you were in the moment, you can't really connect the dots, and that's it's good to look back sometimes and say, okay, maybe I should take that next chance. If I hadn't taken that chance, maybe I won't be here. Or as you said, what if? So let's go back to positivity. What are some things that you tell people in your speeches and your coaching or whatever in terms of not just for you yourself if you're the owner, but in terms of your team about giving them that opportunity to pause?
Well, the first thing I would say is the importance of a reset. Things don't always go as we want them to. And so
Yeah,
sometimes we have to have that moment to just stop. And you think about if our technology that we're using right now went haywire, or if our
mhm,
iPhone, or if our computer, what would we do?
yeah,
Before we ever called technical support, we would turn it off and restart it. And there's
yeah,
something about that that can solve a lot of little problems in life. And I think taking that pause to do a reset. Again, for me, it's being outside, being in nature. Very fortunate that I live across the street from several acres of wooded trails. And multiple times per week, sometimes multiple times per day, I go out 5 minute walk to 20-minute walk to 30-minute
yeah,
walk just to reset my brain so I can get recalibrated back to whatever might have thrown me off kilter. So I think it's important that we have those periodically scheduled within our days, within our weeks,
mhm,
to have that moment of reset. The second thing I would say is to reframe. We hear a lot of negativity in our businesses. I would imagine people who plan weddings get a lot of grief sometimes from a bridezilla or from a mother-in-law or a mother who's going to bat for their daughter or son, and things aren't
yeah,
working out, and we've got to reset from having that really really difficult
yeah,
conversation. And so just being able to take that moment and stop and not owning it, but having things in place to just say, you know what, I'm gonna
yeah.
respond slowly and carefully and make sure that I don't further exasperate the other person on the other line. So those are two big things that I talk about: the
Yeah.
importance of a reset and the importance of reframe. And there are others as well, but those are two of my personal favorites.
Yeah, and it's unplugging from what's happening typically, um, my wife will doom scroll on her phone. I'm like, could you just turn it off? Just turn it off, right? Let's just be, right? Um, I have a family member that talks all the time, can't have silence, talking all the time. And if we're with that person, it's nice sometimes. My wife and I will leave and we'll just be in the car, no radio, no nothing, just quiet. Let's just be quiet right now because your brain just can't be on all the time. You have to turn that off. I'm like you. I was hoping for the nicer weather because I love to walk outside too. We have in our neighborhood. I love to walk outside. I walk on the treadmill for exercise, but it's not the same. Yes, I walked the same distance, but it's not the same. You didn't go anywhere. All I did was French lessons on Duolingo, but I love just getting outside and just paying attention to the birds. Sometimes I'll take the trash out at night and it'll be a clear night and you look up and I'll just stop and look at the stars. Unfortunately, we're not in a dark sky area, but I'll just put my hands by my eyes and say, let me just see that. Because they'd say that light that we're seeing is not current. That light we're seeing, started many, many, many years, or I don't know, millennia. I'm not sure how long ago that light is there,
A
but
long time.
long time ago there. So walking in the woods, what are some of the things you've heard from people that they like to do to reset?
So one of my favorites, just to go back to something you said a moment ago, is we're always on. We're
Yeah,
always at arm's length away from our technology.
yeah,
And so I have incorporated something over the last several years, inspired by other entrepreneurs, where it's a Sunday sabbatical from technology. Unless I am traveling on a Sunday,
right.
I turn my phone off for a minimum of 12 hours, sometimes 24. Sometimes I turn off Saturday night and don't turn it on again until Monday morning. Same thing goes for any kind of a screen, because I, like everybody else, have that fear of missing out. I want to, keep what's going on, be in touch with
Right.
people. But what an interesting thing has happened now that I've been doing that. My family now knows that, and so I don't get text messages.
Mhm.
So I don't turn on my phone to a lot of messages typically. And I
Yeah.
think it's important for anybody who's an entrepreneur, whatever time you can carve out, just to have quiet, to
Yeah.
not have your phone going off, and to not feel like you have to be looking at your phone. And gosh, you and I see it all the time in stores, on planes, on
Yeah.
in Uber rides. If we're sharing Uber, whatever, people are like just are. It's like their lifeline, and it's
Yeah.
crazy. We can't, again, to that comment I made earlier, we can't come up with new ideas if we are always connected in some way, shape, or form. And we
Yeah.
don't see the world around us either. We're not
Yeah.
listening. We're not attentive. We're not allowing things to happen in our minds because we're not connected to that electronic device. So I think having a sabbatical from
Yeah.
technology is a great, great thing. And people will say, "Oh, well, but I can't." You can. You
Yes.
just have to be disciplined. And
Right.
and in the years that I've been doing this, Alan, I've missed one thing that I really wanted to do because I was offline for a period of time. And I
Yeah.
thought, you know what? The payoff is far, far exceeds the loss of that one single event. Now, there have been other
Yeah.
smaller things, but this was a big thing that I had opportunity to do, and I missed it because I wasn't connected, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah. I heard something recently about someone who said they have a second old-fashioned old person cell phone, right? Maybe a flip phone or whatever. And that is they unplug their smart device, but they're accessible for emergencies. And the only people that have that number are the family, right? The people that you would need to. So if you have someone you need to be taking care of, if you are a caretaker or whatever, you're still accessible because you have the old, I don't know, what is the one they ever has, the cricket or whatever it is, the doesn't do anything. It actually does the thing it was intended to do. It makes phone calls and that's all it does. They have that to be accessible for the emergencies, but the other one is turned off. So that's that. If you're really freaking out, I need to be accessible. If there are emergencies in your life, or could be, that's
There's an
certainly an
alternative.
option for you over there. Um, but I remember times where the technology again went offline, failed, or whatever, and you find yourself like, oh, what? So what do I do now? Right?
Right.
And if I'm in the back of an Uber and I find myself on the phone, and then I'm like, I just missed all that scenery. Like I'm in a new city and I just missed all that scenery. Or we'll be driving and you're driving, so you got to pay attention. And my wife's got her face in the phone. I'm like, look over here. And she's got her face like, no, look at that. Look at that tree. Look at this house. Look at this building. Look at this, whatever. We miss what's around us. And I think that awareness is really important. Just walking. Again walk in the neighborhood and I'll see. Okay, oh look, that tree's in bloom. Oh look, this neighbor just did a whatever. Just did something over here. Just being aware of what's around us. I walk into a hotel room. I never turn the TV on, but I remember years ago, reflex, walk in the room, turn the TV on. Right. And now I walk in, sometimes the TV's on because it's got your name on it. You probably had that one. Hi, Tim, and I boom, turn it right off again. I don't need your ad for Marriott or whatever it is, but I'm not going to watch TV. Right. If I watch TV at home in the evening with my wife, and if she wasn't home, I probably wouldn't watch TV. Just, I don't need that. I do have other things, but I don't need that. And you and I would probably be sitting playing music, but that's a whole nother story there. But actually, that's an interesting story. So you didn't play piano as a kid, is that right?
I did
You did.
play
Okay.
piano. My dad was a classically trained concert pianist, and
Okay.
while that wasn't his main profession, he performed over 40 plus years. So I
Mm.
was always around music, but I
Hmm.
I really got singular focused on jazz 7, 8 years ago, and had a couple of different instructors, and I think that's an important thing to think about as well. Having an outlet for something that you can do that can fuel you in ways that that you might not expect. I was speaking a
Hmm.
couple of weeks ago at my old college, actually, and there were several students in the audience, and somebody asked me, one of the greatest questions I've been asked ever, and you'll appreciate this as a musician. He said,
Okay.
"What have you learned about jazz piano that's applicable to the business world?" I'd never
Mm,
been asked that question before because I don't really talk
wow.
about that in my talks.
Yeah.
But there was a lot to unpack there, so much so that I'm thinking someday of developing a whole presentation based upon
Yeah.
the concept of improvisation in the workplace and why that's important and
Yeah.
how you like a good jazz musician does, how do you share that moment of of
Right.
everybody having the spotlight? How do you know they're done and so forth? And so all those things are things that are important to business owners. So being able to improvise when things aren't quite as
Yeah.
you anticipated, knowing when to give that look to Alan to say, you know what, I need you to take over now. So
Right.
there's a lot we can learn from having an outlet, whether it's art or music or theater or whatever. I think there are great lessons in pausing to have those kind of experiences. And then sometimes these insights will just come to you just
Right.
because. So I'd encourage the people who watch this podcast, you find a hobby or interest outside of your work that really fuels you and speaks to your soul, and watch your creativity soar.
Yeah. And if you can incorporate that into your work, great. And if you can't, that's okay. I don't use music in my work, but then during COVID, I started posting videos of me playing piano, and people tell me all the time, "Oh, I love your videos, love your videos." So I still post them every once in a while. But yeah, that's a really great question about jazz because of being present, right? Being present when you're with people. It's very hard with all the distractions we have. But when you're playing jazz, you're paying attention to what's going on around you. You're complimenting the other people. You're not taking over. I have a hard time when I play with a band because I'm used to playing solo. So my left hand is playing the bass line and my right hand is playing the chord and the melody. So I'm playing what the singer would sing. I'm playing what the bass player would sing. And I have to back off way big time. It's like, this is my piece. My lane is right over here. And complementing those other things. But yeah, yeah, there's something there. There's a presentation there, Tim. Just so much of that back and forth, right? Having a conversation with someone in jazz, right? Trading fours or trading eights or whatever, where you solo a little bit, they solo a little bit, you solo a little bit, that same thing. And again, you're not trying to one up them, you're trying to complement what's going on. And oh, that's so good. See,
Well,
this is happening right in real time, folks. This is happening in real time.
and to think about this for your audience as well. So, as you know, if you are playing with a bass player, you're going to want to drop that left-hand bass note that you're typically playing. If you're
Yeah.
playing with a singer, you're not going to want to play that melody. Like you're going to be comping. And so, my
Yeah.
instructor right now is showing four different ways to play the same song. And so, how that might relate to people listening to this is, not every one of your weddings, obviously, is going to be exactly the same. Sometimes you're going
Yeah.
to have to drop that bass part, if you will, or
Yeah.
you're going to be comping in the background, and
Yeah.
it's so important to learn how to do that. And we
Yeah.
do that by listening, by paying attention, and back to my favorite callback, getting off some of this technology for
Yeah.
periods of time. Establish that backup system like you talked about.
Yeah.
Give people an alternative way to get in touch with you, but it's really, really critical for our mental health, for every type of health, to
Yeah.
have built-in pauses that allow nothingness to happen, if you will. But the benefit of that, sometimes something really, really cool happens
Yeah.
inside of our brains.
Yeah. Years ago, we went to an all-day jazz festival, and it was a Duke Ellington tribute.
Mm.
So 45 minute, each band had a 45-minute set, but they had to play Take the A Train. But they played it any way they wanted. And this is the what if. Like, what if we play it this way? What if we play it this way? And literally heard five or six bands play the same song differently. And then there was a dinner break, and then the headliner came on, Cyrus Chestnut. And he played Take the A Train with his big band, but played it in 3/4 time. It's written in 4/4 time, played it in 3/4 time. And for the first few seconds, my mind was like, whoa, that's not right. Wait a minute. Was it written in 3/4? That sounds really good. Because he said, what if I played it in 3/4 instead of 4/4? And that inspired me to go home and sit down at my electric keyboard, play a song with a beat that was intended, and then change the beat to something completely off from that and play the same song. So play it as a bossa nova, then play it as a rock song, then play it as a ballad, then play it as a waltz and whatever, just to challenge yourself. What if I did it this way, right? I mean, it's ephemeral, it's there and gone, not recorded, but that's the fun part of this is you don't have to use every idea you come up with. But if you don't try a new idea, you're just playing the same old song the same old way every time. And that's what that is. So, Tim, this is fun. Always fun chatting with you. Thanks for coming on. And thanks everybody for listening to two old friends just chatting here about stuff. But I hope you picked up something about, are you going to take some time for yourself? Right? You can just take some time for yourself and let the ideas come because you're clearing your mind from what's going on in the day to day. So, Tim, if people want to find out more about you, where can they go?
TimRichardson.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, have a Facebook page as well. I'm based in the Knoxville, Tennessee area. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Tim Richardson Knoxville, and happy to be of service any way I can.
Great. And we'll put all that in the show notes. Thanks everybody for listening. Tune in to the next episode. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe to this channel and post a review on your chosen platform, Apple Podcasts or whichever one. If you have any questions about anything in this episode or any of my episodes, email me directly at alan@weddingbusinesssolutions.com or visit my website, alanberg.com, alanberg.com. If you have any suggestions for future topics or guests that you'd like to see, please again, email me or visit my website. Thanks for listening.